When the economic draft framework between Rwanda and the DRC was signed in Washington last month, little was known about the agreement except that it offered billions of dollars in investment to both countries in exchange for peace. This was significant because the Eastern DRC, which has been engulfed in conflict for decades, is rich in mineral wealth. Now, new details on the draft framework have emerged, in which both countries commit to working with other parties, including the US, to oversee reforms in the mineral sector. A document seen by Reuters commits the DRC and Rwanda to work with Washington and other partners to develop reforms necessary to de-risk private sector investment and reduce illicit trade. It commits all parties to adopt outside transparency mechanisms, third-party inspections of mining sites, and the development of cross-border special economic zones. The draft also details timelines for an annual high-level summit on regional economic integration. The framework comes on the back of a peace deal signed in Washington in June by both Rwanda and the DRC, overseen by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. As part of the agreement, Kigali and Kinshasa agreed to begin a framework on regional integration within 3 months. Robert Nagela, CGTN.
Well, Congolese authorities are now discussing that draft economic framework with stakeholders. Our correspondent Chris Ochamringa has more from Kinshasa.
Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo are moving closer towards cooperating in the exploitation of minerals in Eastern DRC. The two countries have agreed to develop reforms aimed at increasing transparency in the mining sector. It covers minerals like tantalum, gold, cobalt, and lithium, which are critical for the transition to clean energy technologies. According to a Congolese official who declined to be quoted, officials in Rwanda and the DRC will meet in October to finalize the deal. It comes after months of clashes between Congolese forces and the M23 rebels in Eastern DRC. The DRC and UN experts have accused Rwanda of backing the rebels and using the conflict in Eastern DRC to exploit minerals. But Rwanda has denied the charge and accused the DRC of backing a Hutu militia known as the FDLR. The group is blamed for carrying out the Rwandan genocide of 1994 that targeted ethnic Tutsis. Sporadic fighting has continued in Eastern DRC despite the US peace deal and the ongoing talks mediated by Qatar between the DRC government and the M23 rebels. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Well, let's broaden this conversation a little bit more. Jervin Naidu, an economic expert, is joining us live via Zoom from Cape Town. Jervin, let's start with the economic front here. How can such economic incentives help to deliver the peace?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So in terms of economics, it's what we call in the political economy security field, it's called regional economic security. So the idea is that the deeper that Rwanda and the DRC intertwine economically, the more unlikely they are to go to war. So if you and your neighbor are trading heavily, it's not in your favor or your interest to go to war. A perfect example of regional economic security, which sort of the poster child of it is the EU, for example. Since the end of World War II, you haven't had any wars because the countries are so, they may have tensions, but they're so economically integrated that it's not in their best interest. So this is the same concept that is being pushed between Rwanda and the DRC. The deeper you're integrated, the more intertwined the economies are, it's the more unlikely that either party would pursue conflict or a third party because it just doesn't benefit the greater good. So that's the gist of the economic part of that deal.
So what are the implications, though, of this DRC-Rwanda economic framework, particularly for the two countries, the region, and companies seeking to do business in Eastern DRC?
Yeah, so it's gonna complicate, as we say, increase the red tape or bureaucracy, because right now some of the sticking, as you mentioned in your talk, there's lots of details around the draft agreement. There's lots of disagreements of how we're going to organize these agreements. Who's going to collect the taxes? How do you split the taxes between Rwanda and the DRC? Is it a joint agency? Will they be using Congolese currency, the Rwandan currency? We're going to be using the dollar. So there are lots of technical bureaucratical issues. On the one side, it's going to create more red tape for organizations, but it might give it more clarity because a lot of investors and companies that want to operate in parts of the continent, they look for good accountability, good business practices. So if you have the good practices in place, it makes it attractive. But then you also have on the flip side, there probably will be companies that have been already operating in the Eastern DRC, parts of Rwanda and the Congo, who might see this as not a good thing because they don't want to have too much of red tape because we know there's lots of fishy business going around in the DRC. So it's a double-edged sword. So for those, conscious investors and businesses, they want a good platform. This is good. But for those that don't, it may not be there so much.
Well, there have been several peace processes since 2021, and they have pretty much failed. What is your assessment of the current momentum in this regard?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's failed. The AU processes, the EAC process, it's really been a struggle. I like to say it's still not there where it should be, but it's made a lot more progress than any of the initiatives we had in Africa. Unfortunately, it's sad to say. The DRC's and Rwanda's negotiations are going a lot better than the direct engagement between DRC, M23, which has been mediated by Qatar. So overall, like I said, I'm still a bit skeptical about peace. I feel like these deals are going to give us some short-term breaks in the conflict within the Eastern DRC and the broader Great Lakes. But these processes are a lot better than what we saw under President Larissau of Angola and the EAC's attempt to bring peace. So I would say I would be cautious to say it's super positive, but I would say I'm optimistic that it's slowly moving in the right direction. But for now, I think we should temper ourselves that we're going to have immediate long-term peace in the Great Lakes.
All right, Javin Naidu speaking to us there from Cape Town. Thank you.